Hi, and welcome to this week 10 of the author strategy sessions with me, Dawn Bates. Now, today, it's not going to be what most people will probably think it is, because I like to do things a little bit differently. Today's session is all about the untapped power of your book. If you bear with me one moment, I'm just going to pull up the slides so that we can go through those together. So while I'm doing that, just to give you a little bit more information about myself, I'm Dawn Bates. I started writing books quite a while ago, and a number of years ago, and so far I have 22 books to my name, mainly as a solo author. Some of those books I've worked on with other clients, with my clients, to help them develop their voice, develop their story, do research, and I have been doing it. I think I'm doing this right now. You'd think I would actually have nailed this by now, given the number of events that we've taken. So I have written these books with my clients. I've helped them with their research. I've helped them grow in confidence to actually speak their truth and talk about things and write about the things that really are important to them. And we have gone through lots of, the legalities and all the things that you would really expect. And a lot of the time others don't get. So this week is looking at the untapped power of your book far beyond your brand growth. So, and if you'd like to know a bit more about me, you can see that my website is at the bottom there, dawnbates.com. Okay, so step one is about the speaking opportunities. Now, as authors, one of the biggest things that authors want to do is get speaking opportunities because, admittedly, it's one of the best places to sell your book, especially when you consider that platforms such as Amazon have royalty payout thresholds. Those of you who are not aware of this, companies like Amazon, they put in payout thresholds of, say, $100, £100, €100, depending on which country or currency you use. And until you reach that on that platform, they do not pay out. So you can imagine how many people are actually writing books, and Amazon are keeping their royalties and making millions of profit on somebody else's money, whilst the authors are waiting. So speaking opportunities really are one of the best ways for you to make money on your book. It's also great for credibility. It's also great for awareness of your story. But what is it you're saying? Are you just speaking words? Are you just speaking bumper car stickers? Or are you actually saying something that's changing the world? Are you saying something that resonates with you so deeply? And when you wrote your book, when you were writing, did you actually write what you really truly thought, or were you stopped by a narrative or the fear of showing up? Maybe the fear of showing up was you didn't want to lose your job, you didn't want to get arrested, perhaps, you didn't want to be seen as a troublemaker. How far did you go on owning your voice and sharing the expertise and the knowledge that you have? Because when you write a book and you're owning your truth and you know that your voice is important to create impact, then that helps you gain the right speaking opportunities. Now, these could be in very, very low profile groups. They could be in underground groups. They could be at universities. They could be at huge conferences, international conferences. It could be on podcasts and webinars. We all know this. But until we actually know our truth and we're actually saying something that matters and something that resonates with us on a deep and purposeful level, then nothing that we're really talking about is making a difference. So you're not going to become somebody, you're going to find it very, very difficult in many ways to gain the opportunities, the speaking opportunities that you need. And are you using speaking opportunities? Like if you're at dinner, a networking lunch, are you using your voice? Are you prepared to stand alone in a room full of strangers and speak your truth and hold to your truth? because when you are prepared to stand alone for your message and your purpose and the thing that you're most passionate about, that's when you know that you've tapped into your truth and what you're actually really here to write and share with the world. Which leads us quite nicely, obviously, because I planned these slides out, onto becoming a thought leader in your industry. Because you can talk about, you could have gone up through the ranks and, people might recognize you. You might be the CEO, or you might be, one of the, the marketing person. You might be the inventor. But what does thought leadership in your industry mean? And what does thought leadership really mean anyway? I mean, it's such a term that's bandied around these days that, does it actually have any meaning? It's like the word sorry and I love you. And, these things are said so much that they've actually lost their power. And so when you're looking at your industry, what are the things that you know about that are not actually being said? And what are you transforming about your industry? Because only when you're transforming something from within your industry or stepping outside of your industry to connect it to another one or a cause, are you actually starting to alchemize and innovate and push the boundaries? And these are the things that will really, really elevate you. It might have other people become antagonized by you, but as I think as Napoleon said, a leader never stood for anything unless they were controversial. We don't become pioneers, we don't become inventors, we don't become innovators or leaders by following the crowd. So if you are feeling like you're pushing up against something, and there might be a fear that you have, a piece of self-sabotage perhaps, by not speaking up, you're not really going to transform your industry, not to your best ability. So again, it's like looking at, we look at some of the biggest inventions around the world, and we look at some of the I was thinking about one of the ladies, I can't remember her name now. Mama Seacole is in my head. This was a lady back in the 1800s, at the time of the Crimea. She was rejected time and time again by the British nursing industry. And even though she wanted to go out and help be a nurse out in the Crimea, she hit resistance every single step. And it wasn't until she said, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to allow anybody to stop me. And I'm going to do what I came here to do. And she set up the British hospital, and she was there, she was caring people out in the Crimea. And now what we're seeing in Britain is that a lot of the nurses within the NHS are actually in awe of Mary Seacole. And they actually are still taught about her today, so almost 200 years on. So again, what is it you are transforming about your industry? What are you exposing? So Mary was exposing racism. She was exposing alternative healing modalities. And she actually provided a unique insight into the culture of British medicine. And she provided a solution to the soldiers in the Crimean War. And then she set up a hospital. She then set up a home where other people were able to come and be with her. And so when we're looking at our industry, what are those things that when you look at it, you go, are we really still discussing this? Are we really still allowing ourselves to be stopped by this? So, for example, if we take COVID, for example, we all know about COVID. If we haven't, where have we all been? And for years, I had been, those of us in the IT world, okay, we've had laptops, although they were more like bricks, like big, huge, chunky things, with this tiny little green nipple in the middle of the H and the J, the U and the Y, if you're on a QWERTY keyboard, that is. And they were heavy, and we would take them everywhere. And then I remember when the Palm Pilots came out, and then we had these little tiny phones, Motorola StarTAC, very Star Trek. And again, it was like, if we're not so we were able to connect, the connectivity. People started working from home, and then, you know, or they were writing reports and reading reports whilst on the tube going into London, or whilst they're traveling. We started to see people working remotely, and that was, you know, back at the late 1990s. But it wasn't until COVID happened that people started working from home. And it's like, why did it take so long for us to actually get to that point? Or for the masses to get to that point. So think about these kind of things. Like when you're writing a book, and that you're like, why is it taking us so long to do this? Or why are we still having the same conversations that my mother had or my grandmother had? It could be that you're writing a book about families and you're looking at the way in which single mums are still treated, or the fact that, excuse me, or the fact that fathers still do not get access to their children, just because the mother, to get a payout from the father or a maintenance fee, the mothers can say what they like about the man. It doesn't have to be true, but it actually helps her win the court case. So maybe you're working in the legal industry around family law, and you know that there are things that need to be changed, and that's the book that you need to be writing. That is the subject that you need to be speaking out on, and your book is going to help you. It might not make you a lot of friends within the legal industry, but I'm pretty sure there are lots of families out there that would be incredibly grateful. And when you do that thing, I mean, I've talked about this in some of the other sessions that I've done. But when we're looking at the book when we're considering the book that we're going to write or we have written, where is that sitting with our value system and our moral system? Have we written something within the pages? It might not be a very big section, but is there a line within, say, the opening paragraph or the foreword or the prologue that really doesn't align with you, but just so that you're seen to be giving a nod to a narrative, you've put it in there anyway, but it's not actually really what you think. It's not what you really feel about things, but you want to sell lots of copies. You want to be accepted, so you've written it in there anyway. That's not aligning you to your values. That's not you being true to yourself. And when every time you're not true to yourself, you kill off a little part of yourself. Every time you people please, you kill off a part of yourself. And when you're doing that, you know that when you're people pleasing, you are not in alignment with who you truly are and what you truly think and feel. So it's about looking at who is the person you want to be, and how is the book that you're writing going to help you get to that? I'm not talking about the prestige and the awards and all of those accolades, not yet anyway. I'm talking about that human being that you want to be. Are you writing about something that truly resonates with everything about who you are? Is it the fact that you're writing the book to go through a narrative coaching or narrative healing process so that you can purge out your trauma? I have done this, and I have still quite a bit more to purge. I've got a number of books coming out, but this thing that you are so passionate about, that you know has to change, that you can see, if I did this, it would mean these drastic changes, or it would mean that this would happen, but I have to write it anyway. What is it you have to write? Because that thing you have to write is going to make you unstoppable. It's going to make you so proud of what you've done and make you want to tell everybody. You are going to, when you've written that book, you are going to be unstoppable in how you show up for it. You're going to come up with new ways to actually how to market the book and how to market yourself. You're going to feel so much easier when you can go to bed at night and just sleep. So make sure that everything that you're writing in your book aligns with who you are. And if, say, for example, you've written a book, say 5-10 years ago, and you are no longer that woman. Like, for example, my first book, Friday Bridge, I read that again recently. I was like, wow, I've changed so much. Because I knew that when I wrote that book, that one of the reasons I wrote that book is because I knew I was going to become very, very successful. And I didn't want some of the people from my raving hedonistic days that I used to go out taking drugs with to come out about my past and go, oh, well, I know Dawn, she did this, and I used to go out raving with her, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, I'm going to own that truth. I know who I was. I know how far I've traveled. And so if you've written a book so many years ago, maybe it's time for you to revisit that book and go, wow, look at how far I've come. And this new book, or this second edition, with updates. So, for example, my third book, Crossing the Line, was separating that into 2 books because my readers asked me questions that they didn't get the answers for. So we're re-releasing that book. Again, I can see how far I've come, but now I have more knowledge. I'm like, okay, this book is even more powerful than I ever realized. I'm more powerful than I ever realized. That's where we're going with the book. So it might be an idea for you to sit back if you've already written a book and reassess the strategy behind it. But if there's any internal conflict with what you've written inside that book, or the way you've designed the book, maybe it's time for you to republish. Revisit the manuscript. What's working for you now that's not working, that wasn't working for you then? What was working for you then is not working for you now. Both ways, you've got to look at it. And if you are embarrassed about the cover, get it republished, get somebody to redesign it for you. Talk to me. I'm here to help you. I do these events so that you have the knowledge to actually produce the very best book that you want, and actually create an author life by design that empowers you and takes you where you want to be and removes the fear of what's stopping you. Because once you become unstoppable, we've then got to find out, why would the media be interested in your book? Where are you showing up in the media? Are you hiding, like I sometimes do, because sometimes the content that I'm writing, it triggers me, or sometimes a life event stops me and I'm like, I really can't deal with that right now. So for example, at the moment, I've got a very dear friend who's in her final days in a hospice. I'm very emotional. I don't really want to be doing TV interviews or podcasts. The fact I'm showing up here today, bit of a miracle. Bit of lipstick, wash your hair, get on with it. But again, it's like, when you are going out into the media, why are they going to be interested in your book? What is it that you are saying that's different? Is there something in your book that's clickbait that they can use, but it's actually really powerful, leads people to the book? Or is the book just all clickbait just to get people to buy from you? And if the book is just a lead magnet, or a way of you selling your courses, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that, but where's your higher purpose? You are more than just somebody who is selling a course. You are more than somebody who just wants money. Look at who you truly are on the inside and what you truly can become. Because if your book is evergreen, not just something that's written as clickbait or just because something is trendy, but if your book, and you write it as something that's evergreen and that showcases your journey and takes you where you want to be, your book could be a resource for generations. It could be something that's in a university library that students this year, in 5 years' time, 10 years, 20 years, actually use your book as a timestamp. Or this is how things are. Look at how far we've come, or look at how much we stayed the same. How are you making your book an evergreen book? And what challenges, once you've written this, because as we know, the media like to not only build people up, the media also like to destroy people. So once you've written this book, and you have got these speaking opportunities on the TV show, on the radio, you've been in the newspaper, or on the glossy magazines, or on lots of the podcasts, you're speaking on virtual stages as well as in-person stages around the world. What are the things that the media are going to bring up, try and destroy you with? Because once you own those, there's nothing that can touch you. It's like when we wrote the book Man Up, and We know that a lot of people use the phrase "man up" to men to bring them down a peg or two, or to actually say, oh, they use it to belittle it. But when the men own the fact that they are manning up, it becomes empowering. It can't touch them. We're seeing with the queer community. Many years ago, when I was a child, that's what, like, if somebody was a homosexual or a lesbian, like, they'd be queer, or as my dad would say, queer as a 10-bob note. That became quite an offensive term for people. But now the queer community have reclaimed that word for themselves so it doesn't hurt them. What is it about your book and the challenges or the subjects you're writing about and speaking about? What could this bring up? What could the media throw back at you? Because again, once you own it, they can't stop you. They can't hurt you, or it becomes a lot harder for them to hurt you. Now, in my 7-week author course, there is a whole module on, and it's environment is everything, where we actually dive deep into the environment inside of yourself, inside of your mind, your environment and your home and your friendship groups, your social circles, and your business community, talking about this whole situation. Once you own your truth, it's very difficult for people to bring you down. And the thing is, I think I also covered it in module 1. It's been a while since I looked at those. But the 7-week course is actually on my website, dawnbates.com/7-week author course, if you want to go and have a look at the modules at another time, so I can just carry on with this. So again, it's looking at, what is it that you're hiding from the media? What is it that you're not willing to have known about you? Because once you have owned those and you know what it is, you can overcome anything that's self-sabotaging. And when those of you who are not familiar with the phrase self-sabotaging, to give you an example, when I first got divorced from my ex-husband, I knew that I was going to become even more successful than I already was. But I also knew that he was somebody who might not look very kindly, or might actually want to try and prevent me or sabotage me in one way or another. Whether that was true or not is irrelevant. That was what was in my head. I was under thinking, well, he's going to come after my money because I was with him. That's when I learned Arabic. I moved out to Egypt, and that's when my first book became an international bestseller, because it was about the Egyptian uprising. Was he going to come after me to kind of claim some of my income? Probably wasn't a reality. It probably is. But that was a fear and a self-sabotage I had going on that stopped me showing up for that book. These are the things I want you to dive into, because once you've dived into them, the opportunities that present themselves to you will be boundless. Now, in the description for this weekly moment, I spoke about the collaborations and the opportunities that might come your way. One of the things that I've seen happen, and I've experienced myself, is when people find out about the book you're writing, they get very excited. And if you are like myself, you've got many books to your name, you're an award winner, you've been nominated for other awards, you've got these international best-selling books, and you've got this level of success. People want a piece of that. People love living in reflective glory rather than going after their own. And when you're collaborating with people on, so them writing the foreword, or you're teaming up with another organization to help promote your book, it might be a podcast series that you're working on for somebody who's doing podcasts about the subject you've written about, and you co-host a series of interviews or conversations. Are you doing it just because you're excited and you're getting caught up in that moment? Or are you collaborating for a very different reason? Is it a very solid foundation? Is it something that is going to stand the test of time? Now, like I mentioned, we get divorced, people change, one person changes, the other one doesn't, or we go in separate ways. But if you are going to go into a collaboration, it makes sense. And for some of us, it's very obvious to actually think, 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, is this going to be a sustainable thing? Because again, I'm going to use the podcast conversation in the series of, say, maybe webinars that you're putting on. If you're collaborating with somebody who has a platform such as that, like a webinar, weekly webinar, or a podcast on the subject you're writing about, once your collaboration has come to an end, will those assets still be available, or will the person with the podcast eventually get tired of doing it, delete their platform, and so all the things that you have worked on together, all the assets that you have, will then be lost? You can't, and any links that you're sending people to, they come up as though they're terrible 404. And again, if you're looking, once you've written a book and you're doing a collaboration, maybe there's two companies that are merging together to actually form a piece of activism or advocacy, as some people prefer to call it. And you're actually going after, like, you're an author who's done a lot of research and you're working with a law firm to change policy at the highest levels of government. Are you someone who has written about education, and so what you're then doing is working with schools or university to change the way education is delivered? Again, it's like looking at those short and long-term goals. It's not just about a short-term marketing, and that, because once you've given birth to your book, you can't just abandon it. It's kind of like a baby. You have to want to be in it if you're going to write a book. And again, looking at the collaborations, don't just think in your local area. Like I mentioned about education, are you going to team up? So, for example, something that you've written about your book, is it about, I don't know, farming methods in throughout history, and looking at developing some of the farming methods, say in some very small archipelagos, so maybe in Indonesia, or the maybe some parts of Central Africa, or maybe the Andes of Latin America, or maybe up as in the north of Canada, looking at how people can reduce the cost of groceries, so in Canada, so that people get better health, better products all year round, rather than them being genetically modified, frozen all year round, or delivered from overseas, which is driving the costs up and people can't afford it. So again, how are you looking at collaborating? Are you going to be taking your book and your research to help develop a new farming method or a new transportation system? And if you're doing that, is your book suitable for that market? Now, I remember speaking with a lady recently. Her name was Marilyn, very lovely lady. She was writing a book, and she was going into the Chinese market, but there was elements of her book that mentioned Korea and other Asian countries. And if she'd have been working with someone like me, I'd have gone, you can't put that in there. Or you can, but you have to be very careful about how it's worded. Because as she shared, the book was not allowed to be published, and she didn't get anywhere in the China market, even though her book was about that, because of the referencing to the other Asian countries such as Korea. So again, is what you're writing suitable for the international markets? Because if it's not, let's address it at the editing stage or in the writing phase. And that is something that I help a lot of my clients do, my one-on-one clients. I'm like, okay, what are the political ramifications of you writing this? What are the legal ramifications? Is this right? Are you citing? Are you referencing? And looking all of these, so you haven't got to the end and published it to find out these problems. It's better to deal with it all the way through, and build those collaborations as you're going. Step 6 is about looking at how we are evolving as a professional. Because once we do write a book, whether it's fiction, whether it is non-fiction, when we're writing our book, we might be in a career that's just paying the bills. We might just be in a career that we went to university, we studied a course, we fell into a job, then we've woken up 20, 30 years later and gone, oh my God, I'm still doing this. Is this really what I want to do? Probably not, because your 16-year-old self did your exams, went to university, and you kind of got in that rat race. or that hamster wheel of just getting up, going to work, coming home, going out, getting pissed, going home, falling asleep, or watching Netflix. Again, we know lots of people that do that. And so when you're writing this book, is it you pursuing a career that you've always wanted? Is it the fact that by writing your book, you've learned a lot about literature or that particular subject you're writing on, and you're actually now going into teaching? Are you going to be, so for example, you might, let's just use the illegal industry. You might have been a prosecutor, but now you're going to become a defender. How does that change your career? Is it that you're going to be changing the industry you're in, or will you be changing industry altogether? Are you going to go from being a lawyer to actually being a legal professor? Are you going to be somebody who supports people with legal aid, it's called here in Britain, and coaching people through it, or doing support work for those within the prison industry? Again, what is it that this book is going to help you do? Because these are the other opportunities of writing a book. Everyone speaks about the, elevating their current position in their current job. But look at the career trajectory that's actually possible for you. And again, are you changing the industry or creating change within it? And what kind of revenue streams are available? Because if you're doing advocacy, is there a paid position? Is there something that, you might become a member of parliament? You might, or a state governor, you might actually become a lay professor. So again, there are all of these different income streams that are available to you. It's not just printing hoodies or notebooks or running a course. There are so many different ways that your book could help you generate an additional revenue stream. But you have to know, going back to step one, you actually have to know who you truly are and what it is you stand for. Because if you're going to go through the process of changing career and you've got a family to support and bills to pay, is changing your direction and the trajectory of your career, how is that going to impact your family? Are they going to see more of you or less of you? And can they handle both? You might be great, but can they handle too much of you? We have to ask these questions. And again, so looking at how your career is going to change, and if you are going to change the industry, how are you doing it, and what repercussions does that have on your family? Are your children, when they go to school, are they going to be ridiculed by the other kids at school? Or are they going to be so like, oh my God, my mum and dad are the coolest people ever. They're on the telly. Or are the parents of the children who go to school going to be seeing you on the news, disagreeing with what you're saying? And that's going to change some of your children's friendships. So these are some of the things that you really, really have to know before putting yourself out there. And I'm guessing we're all quite intelligent people that we would have considered that. But again, if you need to, or if you would like to go through that with me, you can book a one-on-one session with me to the authors.youcanbook.me. The link will be sent to you. Those of you who are watching, who are getting the replay, you will have that link sent to you in the email. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be in the comments below. Step 7. This one is a little less tangible for you to be thinking about, because when you hear the word income, do you only consider money? Now, one of the exercises I take a lot of my clients through is the reframing of the words cost, investment, and debt. And so, for example, one of the costs to us by not writing a book is the loss of sleep. We have a debt of ill health, or we have a debt of health. So our health is not optimum. So it's also costing us our health by not writing the book. The investment is actually the investment in our education, and the investment that we do in our education is through the research that we do, but also working with somebody like me who is teaching you lots of different things as we move through the writing and the publishing process. But I want you to consider what else is incoming to you and your life once your book is published. Income is something that's coming in. It's like input. Something is being put into you. So something is coming to you. It's an income. And I want you to consider what those might be once your book is published. What is incoming? Is it excitement and relief at the initial stages? My God, I've finally bloody written that book. It's taken me how many years? Or thank goodness I've taken that, and that you've got an incoming of a sanity check or incoming of relief. And then you might want to look at, you know, what else is incoming? It's a new future. It's a new family home. It's a debt-free life. It might be that there is something else incoming. If you're single, you might be at an event. You might have a relationship incoming. It might be that you have opportunities that you never saw possible coming from your book. What else is incoming to you by you writing this book? And like I said, is it going to be a teaching career? Is it going to be advocacy work? Is it going to be travel? What is it that you can do with this book that you can, is it going to be, for example, I didn't go to university, I didn't do a degree. Everything that I have learned, I don't think I could, I honestly haven't thought that I could do a degree, because I'm that person that gets distracted by that. I'm a researcher. I go down those rabbit holes. But I get really impatient waiting for other people in classes to catch up, and I'm like, come on, we've already gone over this. We need to keep moving. I'm not a very good team player in a classroom when it comes to learning, because I'm a geek and I learn really quickly. And when I go home, I do all my homework. I am the homework person. And if you do work with me, I will give you homework. So it's all about that, getting the recognition for our work. Now, I'm actually working. I never thought I'd be able to get a PhD because I didn't have an undergrad and I don't have a master's. I probably have a lot more than most people because of the amount of books I've read. So I'm doing a PhD by publication. Now, that is a new kind of concept of PhD. And I say new, it's been around for a few years. But it's like me when I see a new film. My boys have gone, Mum, that came out over 10 years ago, or that came out 15. I'm like, did it really? Must have missed it. Then we see the graphics. Obviously, it's a dated movie. But again, it's like, what opportunities are there for you and the research that you've done? Are you going to become a PhD? Are you going to be gifted an honorary PhD? Are you going to be made a fellow or a what do they call it? An ambassador of an organization or a cause? Again, all of these things are income because they're incoming to you. And when we just look at income as a monetary thing, probably not a very, it's, for me, it's like we take things so literally. How can we play around with the words that we have and actually truly understand the prefixes and the suffixes when they're taken away from the root word? What is it we're left with? Those of you who are word nerds will totally get what I'm talking about here. Those of you who are not word nerds, it might be an opportunity for you to go and have a look at what I'm talking about. It's like the words. One of the things I don't like is I don't like the word diversity. It's all about division, difference, divesting, divorce. It's all about separating people. Cohesion, community. It's all about us bringing everything together. Cooperation, collaboration. It's about togetherness. Again, playing with words. Look at what you're doing. And when you're writing your book, just as a side note, some of the things that you write in your book, that inception point, what ideas are you incepting into people? If we've not watched the Leonardo DiCaprio film Inception, great film, bit long, could have moved a bit quicker, but I understand why it didn't, because some people had to get up with the process and the concept of it. But again, what ideas are you incepting, and what are you actually putting out there into the world that you could actually be receiving? So that is it for today. That is the untapped power of your book, moving beyond the brand growth. And as one of my mentors, Regan Hillier, says, be the brand, be your brand. I think it would be your brand. If you don't know who Regan Hillier is, then you'll be able to find her. She's very glamorous. And she's a very high-end coach for a lot of people. She's got some fabulous lessons out there. But again, it's about you knowing who you are and the brand that you are creating for yourself, and stepping out from behind the name of the company or the job title or the brand of who you were, and recreating who you wish to be. So I hope that you found that useful. Thank you for accepting this invitation to grow with me through the art of literature. And if you'd like to connect with me and you would like to have one of those sessions with me, you can actually go to I don't know what that is. You can actually go to authors.youcanbook.me. The link will be in the messaging that gets sent out to you. This is a free 45-minute session with me to look at your author strategy, regardless of whether you're already a published author or not. But if you wish to talk over your ideas, your total confidence, if you want me to sign an NDA, I'm more than happy to do that. You can see there's nothing for today. Next week, there's an appointment on Thursday at 5 o'clock. There's 3 appointments there on Tuesday, and there's 2 on Monday. So if those work for you, please do book them in. Monday on the 31st is looking pretty good. Either that or I haven't updated my calendar. But do let me know if I can support you in any way. And as I said, I do believe, I best not show you what that is. But if you do wish to check out my 7-week author course, that is dawnbates.com/7-week author course. And that's got all the modules on there where you can do a self-study course. And there are opportunities for you to book a call with me in there if you wish to. So thank you so much for joining me today, whether it is on the replay or whether it is here. And if you've got any questions, do send them through and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you the best I can. Have a really great day. Ciao for